Speaking of action, join me now, Chief Sund, former police chief, Capitol Police. Chief Sund, great to have you with us.
It's great to be here, John.
Okay, so I'm fired up because I live in Washington, D.C., as do you. So let me just throw a couple of stats out, all right? Crime in D.C. has plummeted in the last 9 months. Let me give you a couple of examples. Let's get the homicides, right? 2023, 250 homicides, I think 257 in Washington, D.C. That was 23 under Biden. 25 last year, 124. So it went down 60%. Still too many, though. In the first 5 weeks of the year, one homicide. Now, unfortunately, it was a horrible killing of a teenager. Tears out our heart. It was horrible. And we don't want any. But the only one, lowest it's been in 35 years in the first 5 weeks of 2026. Carjackings down. Felonies down. Break-ins down. Home invasion down. Everything down. Muggings down. Everything down dramatically. What happened?
Well, that's incredible. Violent crime down 37%. What happened? It's a concerted law enforcement effort. You had President Trump in August federalize the National Guard, bring in a bunch of federal agents, which we've done many times before. I've talked about it on your show. And then backed them up with prosecutors that are going to prosecute. Jeanine Pirro has turned around the U.S. Attorney's Office down there. I can tell you, I have walked many cases from D.C. Police Headquarters, or what we used to call Super Court, D.C. Superior Court, over to U.S. Attorney's Office and had them no paper, really good cases. Now, Jeanine Pirro, her predecessor was dropping and declining prosecution on 67% of the cases. Now, every case that's viable, she is prosecuting. She is holding these defendants, these people that are being arrested in jail for 36, 48 hours while they gather more evidence. And they're going specifically after some of the gun cases. So it's a concerted effort. It's good police work. But she's putting it out there. People are learning, if you do the crime, you're going to do the time in Washington, D.C., and specifically with gun cases. She's laser focused on the gun cases.
Chief, we got a mayor's race coming up here. Have you thought about running for mayor of Washington, D.C. on the Republican line?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a couple of people that have talked about it. Myself, no, I actually haven't. I haven't thought about that. I've actually thought about politics, but not really DC just yet. It's scary. Some of the people that are running, that have put their hats in the arena to run for mayor. That if we get a radical left mayor, and I'll tell you, Mayor Bowser has actually been pretty decent. I worked with her when I was DC Police. Pretty decent to work with as far as law enforcement, but she's got a radicalized city council. And if you get a radical mayor in there, I really feel bad for the city. All this effort to turn it around with the safe and beautiful DC task force, stuff like that, is just going to go down the tubes.
Well, Councilwoman Janice Lewis George is running for the Democrat nomination for mayor against another councilman. There's a couple other people in that race, but she's the likely winner. However, it is ranked choice voting, so I'm not really sure how that's going to play out. I'm not sure that helps her. But if she's the Democratic candidate, obviously she's likely to win. A Republican here gets, 7 to 15%. But I think we need a strong Republican candidate in order to get the message out. Independents have never fared successful here, so it would be hard to derail her. So I'm all defeating her in the primary. But she is more radical than Zohran Mamdani in New York City. I mean, she is absolutely a communist, and she could be the next mayor. And if the Republicans keep control of the House, I'm going to be for ending home rule, because God knows what she'll do.
Yeah, that'd be devastating for the city. That'd be devastating for the relationship with the federal government. And people need to realize that. They keep talking about home rule, and they keep talking about this becoming a state. Constitutionally, it can't, and it's for a reason. But yeah, I've seen some of these people. I've actually spoken on panels with members of the council and some of the people that are considering running for mayor. And the radical opinions and radical ideas they have would be devastating to Washington, D.C. And you're absolutely right. It's turned into a beautiful city in the last 9 months, 10 months. You talk about some different areas, Union Station. We've talked about Union Station, I think, on here before. What a change that is. So all that being reversed, I don't think the citizens of DC really want to see that. Again, I think the best you're going to get having a good, strong Republican candidate is to get the message out about what some alternative thinking is. Because right now there's not a lot of people talking about what the alternatives are.
Right. Well, look, everybody knows this because I looked at the race. I'm now running for Ward 2 chairman. This is a race I'll win, but on the Republican ticket. But I looked at it, but the difficulty of it is in the environment we're in. And the problem in Washington, D.C., too, is anybody can vote. You don't have to have a ID. In fact, if you try to show an ID, they get upset. No ID, like people in the Iranian embassy can go and vote. I mean, it's just nuts what they do. So you can't win. Everybody knows that, but we need somebody strong like yourself to at least get out the message.
Well, it'd be a matter of, I'm just right outside of DC in Northern Virginia, so that'd be a relocation for me. But like I said, I have actually in the last couple of years, especially in the last 5 years, been doing a lot of consideration about politics. Been working with a number of different politicians, as helping to support them as best I can. But you're right, getting the right people in there would be key. So it doesn't fall on deaf ears, John.
Well, we've got if you live in Northern Virginia, we've got a U.S. Senate race coming up against Mark Warner. And we don't really have a viable candidate there. I know the candidates in would dispute me on that, but neither of them that are in the race are viable against Warner. You would be a viable candidate. Have you looked at that?
That would be something that I may find interesting because Mark Warner's been in that position for a long, long time. I'm right in that area. So yeah, that'd be something I honestly would consider. Maybe we need to talk offline about that.
I'm going to just put your number in. Be sure Tyler has it, or just put it in the chat. Put your cell in there, and I'll call you because I think Mark Warner could be vulnerable in Virginia, especially when you look at the crazy things that are going on in there now, and what the General Assembly has done, and people are getting buyer's remorse. And the only way to do anything in 2026, because there's no Virginia local election, is going to be at the Senate level. And right now, the two Republicans running, I think Burt Mezzawaga, he's talked about it forever. None of them are viable. None of them are going to be legitimate candidates in this race. I think your entry could really shake things up. So let's talk about it offline. Just put your number there in the chat, and I'll talk to you a little bit later on today. Let's get to, I want to get your thoughts on Tom Homan's press conference yesterday, withdrawing 700 people out of ICE, saying he's now getting cooperation from Minnesota law enforcement. Can you define what that cooperation is, Chief?
Yeah, absolutely. He had a really good press conference yesterday talking about reducing the federal presence by about 700, I think, agents. The cooperation specifically resides with whenever a local law enforcement agency in Minnesota, mainly the Minneapolis area, arrests somebody and then they find out they're actually legally in the United States, they will hold that individual. They'll put them on a ICE detainer, an Immigration Custom Enforcement detainer, and notify ICE. In the past, they wouldn't do that. What would happen is they'd just put them right back on the street. They'd issue a ICE detainer, notify ICE, but they wouldn't hold them. They're required to do that, and they'd just let them back out on the street. And then ICE would have to go, and if they determined that they were important enough to pick up, ICE would then have to engage them on the streets where they could be armed, they could be surrounded by innocent civilians, and you could have these protesters. So now the local law enforcement in Minneapolis area have agreed that if they take these illegal aliens into custody for crimes, they will hold them and give ICE the opportunity to take possession of them in a kind of controlled environment of the jails and courts.
It's been such a turnaround from what has gone on, but there's now some concern about some on our side saying, well, maybe President Trump is moving away from his position of deporting 20 million illegals and only going after criminals. I didn't interpret his interview or the press conference that way. How about yourself?
I absolutely don't interpret it that way. I interpreted that They're just reevaluating how they have their resources out there. They figure, and I agree with them, that if they can get, it's like the 287, I think it's 287G detainers, if they can get the local agencies up there to abide by the 287 rules, it'll save them a lot of resources. They then can take those 700 agents, and it's not like they've just put them on vacation. They're going to move them elsewhere. So they're going to continue to deport these illegal aliens. So I think it's just smart business. It's a good, effective way to run a law enforcement operation. Get your partners in there, let them do their job, you do your job, and use your resources a lot more effectively. It's just working smarter, not harder. So I actually don't see that as President Trump backstepping on his commitment to deport all these illegal aliens. I think it's just smart business, and they're going to reallocate some of their resources.
The SAVE Act. What do you think of that?
You know, it's funny. You see so many members of Congress coming out against it. When I say members of Congress, the Democrats, I mean, how would you not want to have secure elections? You know, to be able to, you look at any country in the world, they fight to have secure elections. We have one political party that seems to be fighting to have unsecure elections. I think it's important that this act gets passed. We actually enforce secure elections. You know, I have to go down, if I'm going to buy certain prescriptions, I have to show my ID. If I go to Home Depot and I want to buy a can of spray paint, I often have to show my ID. You don't have to show your ID to vote. That's just crazy. Anybody in any other country would tell you that's just insane.
It's crazy. I think Chief Son, you're onto something. Law and order is your number one issue. If you look at all the polling numbers, that's what people want. Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, new governor, very liberal, very left-wing campaign as a moderate. So it's all ridiculous. She's very left-wing, but she just gave out an executive order that no law enforcement in Virginia can work with ICE at all. No cooperation, zero. Any county, any city, any sheriff, nothing. Zip. That's an issue you could run on right there.
You're absolutely right. And you had mentioned it before about the buyer's remorse. You see it in some of the community chat rooms. People are coming out and go and look at all the taxes they're recommending and putting in place. And you're absolutely right. You know, right next to where I live, I have Loudoun County. You have Sheriff Mike Chapman out there. He does an effective job controlling the county, controlling the crime out there. And it's specifically because his association and his working with our federal partners. To put a stop to that is basically just endangering your community. So it's just a sign she really, truly does not care about the people that voted for her. She cares about the future people that may vote for her.
Chief Sund, former D.C. police chief, Capitol Police, here in Washington, D.C., land of milk and honey. Can't believe you live in Virginia. But the good news is we're going to try to get you to run for U.S. Senate against Mark Warner.
You know, like I said,
I'm telling you, man, that would be fun. And if you run, you'll be the nominee. If you're the nominee, you're going to make this a race. So put your phone number in that little chat thing there. I'll call you up sometime today. We'll talk about it. Chief Son, people want to follow you. Where do they go?
They can follow me on X at Chief Sund. I'm on LinkedIn. They can look me up there if they want to follow me there. But mainly on X. I don't post often. When I do post, it's going to be something important. So that's the best way to follow me.
All right, Chief Son, thank you for being with us. Always good to have you with us. Coming up next, Steve Sabins, head coach baseball, West Virginia University. They're ranked. They think they're going to Omaha. Why not? They're knocking on the door. Now they're going to bust it open.